Hey guys, and welcome to episode number 96 of Diehlman at Halftime, the NBA podcast that tops all others. I'm your host, Larry Diehlman, joined by my co host, Chris DiPietro. If you're joining us for the first time, it's great to have you. And if you've been a regular listener, welcome back. We have a lot to cover today and not a lot of time to do it. We'll look at a general overview of the NBA this week and then discuss some important topics across the association. Let's get to our content for the week. Probably one of the biggest stories in the NBA this week came out of Chicago. Jaden Ivey was released by the Bulls last week over anti-LGBTQ comments and multiple religious remarks as well. Jaden was a former top five draft pick, and he was recently traded from the Pistons, and since then it's been all downhill. Jaden was recently seen preaching in the Chicago streets, and what got him to this point, he recently made some criticisms with the NBA's involvement in Pride Month activities, calling it, quote, unrighteousness. And after he was waived by the Bulls, he went on a live stream a couple hours later and said, quote, they're liars, bro. This is lying. All I'm preaching about is Jesus Christ, and they waived me. They say I'm crazy, right? I'm psycho, end quote. Just a lot of stuff with like religious and anti-LGBTQ remarks. And he even questioned Steph Curry's religion, saying if he's a Christian, and do Curry, LeBron James, and Michael Jordan's rings matter on Judgment Day, which kind of went out of nowhere. Chris, I don't know what is going on with Jaden Ivey, and I've seen a lot of people say that hopefully he gets some help because these are just comments that obviously just come out of nowhere. Obviously, we're all for certain viewpoints and, trying to be inclusive with everybody, but this just came out of like left field. I don't even know like where to start with this.
Yeah, this is as ugly as it gets for a situation for a player. But the biggest thing that needs to be addressed in this whole storyline are these outlandish claims of hypocrisy and censorship that are, swirling around regarding this situation, including ones made by Ivy himself. People are saying you can't be Christian in the NBA. You can't have your own opinion in the NBA. You have to conform to the NBA's woke agenda to stay in the league unless you're Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards is allowed to be homophobic because he averages 30 points per game. Ivy was not cut for being a Christian. He was cut because he is losing his mind. If you put on any of these Instagram live meltdowns, there's a lot of them. It won't take you long to see that he is not stable like whatsoever. He is acting completely erratic. A player in his right mind is not going to go around the locker room asking media members if they've had premarital sex. He said that his own family has cut off communication with him. Your family doesn't stop talking to you because you're just a Christian standing on your faith. Your family will stop talking to you if you're just completely going off the rails mentally. That's what warrants a communication cutoff of that magnitude. And let's be real, Ivy was probably not even going to make this roster next season, regardless of how he feels about, the LGBTQ. People need to stop acting like this is some young star that was crucified for his faith. Jaden Ivey, at this point of his career, is a fringe rotation player who is made of glass and is completely spiraling mentally. It should not be a surprise that he was cut regardless of what he believes in. And apparently, this was also the final straw in the firing of their vice president of basketball operations and their general manager. So I think Bulls fans should be pretty thrilled about this. But yeah, this was just a super ugly and sad situation for Ivy. He clearly needs help. Like he is not in his right mind. Again, he is just being totally erratic. And again, it has nothing to do with the comments he's making. I think a lot of NBA players or athletes in general like don't even disagree about some of the stuff he says, or even more so don't think he should be punished for saying these sort of things. But I don't believe he was punished for just being a Christian or just saying whatever he said about Pride Month. He is acting totally beside himself. He's unraveling in front of our eyes. It's clearly not healthy the way he's talking and presenting himself. It's not good. He needs help. There's if you're a Christian and you're standing on your faith and preaching the gospel, like do your thing. Like you're entitled to do that. But this is clearly way more than that. If you've heard him talk for 10 seconds, you would realize that this is more than just a guy standing on his faith. So it's just a such a wild situation late in this season. Hope Ivy gets the help he needs. I think he clearly needs it. Yeah, just a really ugly situation overall.
Yeah, asking media members if they've, had fornication was definitely an eye-opening headline to see that. But yeah, I think this is clearly a case of somebody needing help, and you don't need a situation like this in the locker room. Now, the Bulls aren't making the playoffs this season, but this is something that you just want to kind of push out of the locker room. Now, it would be a problem, and you would have cause for concern if, I don't know, Anthony Edwards went to the microphone during a press conference and says, Jesus loves me, and they caught him the next day. That'd be cause for
Right.
concern.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
but if Jaden Ivey's just going on Instagram Live or whatever and spewing comments and especially, anti-LGBTQ propaganda, then that gets a little ugly. So Jaden Ivey hopefully gets the help he needs. And this could be like a Ja Morant situation. Now, Ja Morant was different. That was with guns and stuff, but clearly he needed to seek help. And this is different for Jaden Ivey. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him if Adam Silver gets involved in any way and if he can find a new team soon. This episode is entitled Derailed. So, who's raising eyebrows at the moment? All right, let's go over to the Los Angeles Lakers. I know in the early part of the season, we said that we weren't going to talk about the Lakers in every episode, but this is one that needs to be discussed and badly. The Lakers low key might be screwed. The Lakers were dealt a double injury blow this week with Luka Dončić and Austin Reaves being out for essentially the remainder of the regular season and the season in general, with the playoffs being next week. Luka is seeking treatment over in Spain to expedite his return from a grade 2 left hamstring injury. Austin Reaves, meanwhile, is out for the regular season with a grade 2 left oblique muscle injury. So the Lakers are 50 and 28, tied for third in the West with the Nuggets. And Chris was over at the crib yesterday with me, and we were watching the Lakers Mavericks game, and we saw the Lakers take a 6-point L to Cooper Flag and the soon to be eliminated Dallas Mavericks on Easter Sunday. And it's pretty bad for the Lakers right now when you have a 41-year-old LeBron James. Chris, I think we might have to start seeing a zero dark 30 LeBron as they transition to the playoffs. For those of you that don't know what zero dark 30 means, it's basically when LeBron shuts off social media and focuses on the playoffs to try to win those championships. It was more so when he was leading teams and not so much now where he's just like a supporting character. I think you kind of have to unveil that now with the roster they have, and JJ Redick's still so new to this team in his second year, and not having Luka Doncic, who's the leading scorer in the league, not just the Lakers, the league. And LeBron, here's the thing. In Dallas on Sunday, LeBron dropped 30 points, 9 boards, and 15 assists, and they still lost. And he's 41 years old. The Lakers' final four regular season games, they have three of four at home, which is good. They host the Thunder, they're at the Warriors, and then they host the Suns and the Jazz to close things out of this 82 game stretch. Essentially, with these two injuries, it might be season ending. And Chris, it might take the season for the Lakers with them.
Yeah, this is a total gut punch for them. They were really looking like they were starting to come into their own late in this season. They were playing much better defensively. They were getting probably the most consistent effort from the team we had seen all season, and they lose their two best players, honestly. And for a team that is so reliant on their star players being such a shallow roster, this is the nail in the coffin that their season is over. And as confident as I am, I still feel a bit uneasy because I just wrote off LeBron James, but I'll stand on it. I think they're done. Like you said yesterday, LeBron drops 39 and 15, and they still lose to a tanking Mavericks team. I think they were shallow enough, even with their three best players all healthy. And they were playing so well, even with those guys healthy, that I still didn't even really believe in them in the playoffs. But with those two out, like it's officially wraps. Like you said, yeah, Luka's going to Europe to try and accelerate this, but I honestly fear that would be a bit of a waste of time, given what I think their chances are, even with a fully healthy team. So, just pack it up, Luka. Book the flight to Cabo, man. Get your reservations ready. The season's cooked. I really just didn't like this team's prospects, even with Luka and Austin Reaves, who are their two best players, who they were so reliant on. And, without them, like it sucks, but it's over for them. But I will say, I think a zero dark 30 LeBron like crazy playoff run where he pulls off an upset like single-handedly against the Nuggets or something in round one. Like, could you imagine? That would be so cool as like a final hoorah for LeBron James in the NBA, just pulling off a massive upset and leading a bad Lakers team outside of their top players to like a crazy playoff run as the number one option. That would be super cool. So I'm honestly kind of hoping for that. I hope their season's not over because that would be super cool. But yeah, I think this is the nail in the coffin. Their season is over. They're probably going to lose in four, maybe five games in the first round of these playoffs.
This looks like 2018 Cavs all over again. LeBron leading a team. Now this time he's got like Jake LaRavia, Luke Kennard, Jackson Hayes, and Rui Hachimura. It might not be as bad as when he was on the Cavs with Kevin Love and Kyle Korver and
It's
Tristan Thompson.
close.
Tristan Thompson. I mean, it might not be that bad, but
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's they're, I think those two groups are pretty comparable, and
when
obviously LeBron's
when
not what he used
Kyle
to be.
when Kyle Korver is on the NBA Finals graphic next to like Kevin Durant, that's not a good thing. So right now at the Lakers, as I just said, they are the 3 seed tie with the Nuggets. Right now, you're looking, assuming everything stands, the playing teams, barring anything crazy, should stand. You're looking at the first round either being the Nuggets, Rockets, or Timberwolves potentially. The Suns are in seventh. They're 3 games behind Minnesota for that 6 seed. I'd say Denver, Houston, Minnesota is one of your likely options. And yeah, I'm not really confident about any of those matchups for the Lakers. The Rockets with, Kevin Durant, they got a strong team over there. The Nuggets, I mean, come on now. It's Nikola Jokic we're talking about. Minnesota with Anthony Edwards and their strong core. So yeah, not too confident to see what the Lakers can do. And this is just, and when you have somebody like Luka Dončić, you rely on him so much, and then when he's out, then what? I hope JJ Redick has a backup plan, or just hope zero dark 30 LeBron comes out of
There ain't
hibernation.
no backup plan for this, dude. Hey,
When
the
Jackson when
plan is to pray to your LeBron shrine and hope that he regresses 5 years in age.
when Jackson Hayes is getting considerable playing time, just cancel the season.
Yep, wrap it up. Go
So,
home.
yeah, we'll see. Lakers dealing with some injuries, and maybe they'll get a couple wins to end the regular season, but those injuries might have just tanked their season.
So with the regular season wrapping up and our NBA awards, of course, being a regular season award, we're gonna go over our picks for the awards this season. Not necessarily predictions, more so who we would give each award to. And we want to do this now, especially considering how we're not going to have too much time to talk about this during the playoffs because we will be talking about the playoffs. So, with a few games left in the regular season, we're going to jump the gun a bit and do our 2026 NBA awards. Let's start with most valuable player here. Larry, as host, I'm going to give this honor to you to start with your MVP here.
Why, thank you. For the most valuable player, I don't think it's even necessarily a contest, or at least it's more so of a kind of obvious selection. I'm going to go with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander of the Oklahoma City Thunder. And if you need a one sentence reason why best player on best team. That's pretty much all there is to it. He dropped 47 points recently on the Pistons, who are the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, despite the fact that Cade Cunningham is getting over a collapsed lung. Shea, career highs in assists per game and field goal percentage. And he's doing this too without Jalen Williams at full strength. Jalen Williams has only played about 32 games this season, and he was out for most of that really white hot start they had. Obviously this isn't the Jalen Williams of last year. He hasn't been like last year where it's just like they were just killing everybody last year, and Jalen Williams has been battling injuries, which obviously sucks for Oklahoma City, but Shea just continues to just be Shea. These last couple of years, it's been Shea and Jokic the entire time. Jokic has had an injury this year, which has kind of tanked his chances of, going for that fourth MVP. Shea just has continued to improve. He's a great mid-range shooter. He gets to the free throw line. I know a lot of people call him a free throw merchant, but he's just that good and far and away just continues to lead by example in this conversation. I believe he just hit a game winner on the Nuggets too, which like battle of MVPs or at least MVP caliber teams doing that pretty much would help with your chances. So I will go with SGA to claim a back to back.
SJ is the MVP. He's averaging 31, 4, and 7, a steal, almost a block, shooting just below 67% true shooting. True shooting accounts for two-pointers, three-pointers, and free throws. It's a measure of how efficiently a player is scoring overall. So again, he's shooting 67% true shooting. The league average is roughly 59%. This is one of, if not the most efficient season from a high volume scorer we have ever seen. And it's not just the shooting. Out of the top 25 possession per game leaders, Shea's averaging the second least turnovers per game among them and the third most points created per game among them. Points created being the points you score and the amount of points scored off of your assists during a game. Luka Dončić, second in points created per game, just above Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, with double the amount of turnovers as Shea, and only shooting slightly above average true shooting percentage at 61%. Of the top 10 leaders in true shooting percentages, there are 9 centers and one Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. He also should be the runaway clutch player of the year. He's averaging 6.5 points in the clutch this year, which leads the NBA by far. And maybe as the coldest game winner of the season against the Nuggets, like you mentioned, I thought that was the moment he snatched the MVP. He had a step back three. He had another isolation step back three in the end of regulation in the same game. He simply just has a total, absolute control of the offense. He's the best and most efficient scorer in the league. He's the best and most efficient playmaker in the league. He's a plus defender. He's the clutchest player in the league. He has one of, if not the deepest scoring bag in the league. He's the best player in the league on the best team. Shea's the MVP. So, with that being said, let's hear your depoy, Larry. This one should be a bit easy, I think.
We will go with the man who was born in France, and that is Victor Wembanyama of the San Antonio Spurs. Mr. Wembanyama is the only player in the league averaging at least 2 blocks per game, and he's averaging 3.1. So he, like, nobody else is averaging 2, and he's averaging 3, which is
That's
just
insane, man.
incredible. Victor Wembanyama can simply guard the paint and the perimeter. Like if he's in the paint and you're about to hit an open three, you have to be afraid that he's just going to jump out of like it's just going to be one of like the Monstars from Space Jam with like the extended arm, and you're just thinking it's going to get blocked every time. You have to be afraid if you're a shooter on the perimeter. It's insane that he can just reach that far. 7'4" in height, 8 foot roughly with a wingspan. He just causes havoc on both sides of the floor. He can just completely change your offensive mindset. And Chris and I were discussing yesterday that Victor Wembanyama is probably going to be the defensive player of the year, or at least the runner-up for the next decade. He is just that good. And, we just talked about with Shea being a great defender or a plus defender, and, he can get steals. And Victor Wembanyama could just get blocks like there's no tomorrow. He doesn't even have to jump really. Like it's more like when if you're in elementary school and you're getting like bullied on the playground, and if a tall bully is just holding up like your I don't know your lunchbox or something, or if you have a playing with a ball or something, and the bully can just stand there with the ball, and the kid's just jumping trying to get it, and he's just standing there mocking you. That's pretty much what Wembanyama does. He can just stand there, block a shot, even if you try to float it over him, and just kind of laugh in your face. So he is just such a plus asset for the Spurs. There was a reason why he was one of the most hyped up prospects of all time. There's a reason why, if you're the Spurs front office, you probably fell out of your chair when you realized you got the number one pick that year. So Victor Wembanyama is my defensive player of the year.
And Wemby is the defensive player of the year. I mean, I thought I was confident about Shea. I do feel very confident about Shea. I might be 10 times more confident about Victor Wembanyama winning this award. He won't go home empty-handed here. A lot of people think he should be the MVP. Not for me, not for Larry, but he won't go home empty-handed. He'll snatch up the depoy. He will win the award. He's averaging 3 blocks per game. He's averaging 4 blocks per game in his last 20 games. The Spurs allow 9 less points per 100 possessions with him on the floor compared to off. Might be the only player in the league where players are outright afraid to shoot when he's on the floor. Not just aware of him, like straight cowering in fear. Like there's a lot of great defenders in the NBA right now where, you're aware of them being on the court, and especially if they're guarding you, like, you really got to tighten up and protect the basketball. But I mean, we see like multiple instances a game of players being within a 15-foot vicinity of Victor Wembanyama and like just outright hesitating and passing the ball up when he's near. And like there might not be anyone in NBA history where you can say that about. He is a one of one defensive player, like truly, like we have never seen anything like this before. Like you said, should probably win DPOY for the next decade, and that might be a bit conservative, but regardless, he'll get his first one here. He is the defensive player of the year.
What's interesting too, and for those of you that know YouTube NBA 2K, shout out Chris Smoove. And Chris Smoove once said, or I don't know if he coined the term or just whatever, he made it famous. There's a thing called whoever offense, and basically what whoever offense is, the way that he describes it, whoever that player guards is going to score, basically saying you're barbecue chicken on defense. Victor Wembanyama is the complete opposite of whoever offense. He, like as Chris said, just everyone is just afraid to get blocked or just pummeled by Victor Wembanyama.
All right, so let's transition here to our rookie of the year. It's probably the first race where we have some competition. And honestly, maybe the most competitive race here between Cooper Flag and Con Knipple. So Larry, let's hear your rookie of the year.
Hey, we have to give VJ Edgecombe some credit.
Shout out VJ.
Currently a plus 50,000 in the betting odds. Never say never. Sorry, Valdez Drexel, but I have to go with Cooper Flag of the Dallas Mavericks. So either Chris is going to agree with me or take Con Knipple. We'll see in just a few moments. Cooper Flag is it's weird. He's an obvious choice for being a top rookie, but he's also kind of not with the way that Con Knipple has been playing. Yesterday against the Lakers, the broadcast brought up a stat that's pretty eye-opening. Cooper Flag has scored the most points in a two-game span as a rookie since Wilt Chamberlain. Now, Wilt did this like 100 times just because he's Wilt Chamberlain, but Cooper Flag getting a stat, and I've said this 100 times on this podcast, and I'll probably say it 1,000 more times. Whenever you're in a stat or you're being compared to Wilt Chamberlain, you're doing something right. Cooper Flag is just such an aggressive scorer early in his career. Against the Lakers yesterday, he was just cooking. He was just taking everybody to school. Cooper Flag obviously is the face of the Dallas Mavericks franchise post Luka Dončić, and now with Anthony Davis out of the way too, and Kyrie Irving coming back from an injury next year, Cooper Flag clearly has the keys to this offense, and we're going to continue to see him grow in many facets. And the fact he's averaging 20 points per game right now, it's only going to go up from there. So Cooper Flag, I think, should be the rookie of the year. Con Knipple has a very good chance as well. being just under 20 points per game, and he's a great 3-point shooter. Cooper Flag really isn't a sharpshooter at this point in his career, but never say never.
My rookie of the year is also Cooper Flag. I hate to say it because Con Knipple is truly having a special rookie season. But dude, I think last night he snatched Con's chain, bro. I mean, 45 points, but he's averaging 21, 7, and 5, a block and a steal this year. He's the clear number one. The Mavericks run through 19-year-old Cooper Flag. He has the three highest scoring games for a teenager in NBA history. That is ridiculous. Over his last 10 games, he's averaging 27, 7, and 6 with one block and two steals. The major flaw in his case is the efficiency. He's just below 30% from three this season, whereas Kon Knipple, his sole competitor, is having an outrageously efficient season. He's made the most threes in the NBA this year, shooting 43% on them. He's already one of the best shooters in the league with a stat line that's, really not that far off from Flags. And Khan is far from just a shooter. He's the clear number two and one of the NBA's best offenses this season. But I think the breaking point is if I swapped Khan's role and Flag's role, if Khan was all of a sudden the number one option in Dallas, I don't think it would look as pretty. And believe me, like Khan is far from just a beneficiary of the Hornets offense and his role, but I think Flag is having just as good of a season generally in a role where much more is required of him. Flag is a more capable player. He has the higher ceiling. He has the mold of a superstar, and I think undoubtedly will reach that status pretty soon here. And I do think people have gotten a little lost in the whole role thing. I think a lot of people want to put Flag above Khan just because he has more responsibility within the offense, which, it kind of boils down to how you define the award. I think there's a strong argument Khan is just having the better season, and it really just kind of boils down to how much you value their roles, how much you bake in their roles to that discussion. And I think people maybe do it a bit too much, but I think very late in the season, with some of these wild performances we've seen just very lately from Cooper Flag, I think this has been just enough to put him above Khan, despite the efficiency flaws. And I'm gonna have him stealing this one at the buzzer from Khan Knipple. Cooper Flag is my rookie of the year.
All right, Chris. So, who is your sixth man of the year? There are some quality candidates this year, but who are we going with this time?
It's an interesting race. Keldon Johnson is a big favorite right now, and I really disagree that it's such an over race. I really think there's a lot of capable players in this race, and then a lot of guys who are deserving of the award. But he is my sixth man of the year, Keldon Johnson. He's like the glue of this Spurs team, who is maybe the best team in the NBA, below OKC in the standings, but I mean they're 3-1 against OKC. So, can you really confidently say that the Thunder are better than the Spurs? I don't think so. And so he's the glue of a championship contender. He has unmatched hustle. He's averaging 13 points per game. He's shooting 37% from three, 61% true shooting percentage. That's above average in the league. He's efficient. He's averaging over 5 rebounds per game, almost two of them being offensive, only being 6'6". And that is exactly the type of player you need on a winning basketball team. And I kind of think that that is the essence of this award. I don't really agree that it should just go to the, highest scoring bench player in points per game. I feel like that's kind of lazy. I feel like the essence of the sixth man of the year award is, who do you want coming off the bench, keeping everything together, being a winning basketball player, just a being an example bench player. And that is exactly what Keldon Johnson is. He screams when he dunks, he gets everybody hyped up, he's diving all over the floor. He can even create when needed. He's a plus defender, he's an incredible rebounder for his height and position. So I'm gonna go with him as my sixth man of the year here.
Chris, do you scream when you dunk?
I would if I could, Larry. I'd be screaming from the mountaintops if I could dunk a basketball.
Yeah, Chris usually cooks me at the park. But yeah, I'm going to go with Keldon Johnson too for sixth man. Not averaging career highs or anything, but he definitely knows his role on the bench in San Antonio. He's had experience as a starter, actually, averaging over 20 points a game. And that was when the Spurs were kind of transitioning out of the Greg Popovich era, getting out of this 22-year playoff streak, kind of getting out of there. They were just testing different lineups. I think it was pre-Wemby, obviously, and he transitioned to the bench, and now, he might not be setting the world on fire, but he definitely knows his role. And yeah, I mean, it's good to have a nice balance at forward too. The Spurs are definitely guard heavy with De'Aaron Fox, Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, and obviously Wemby at center. So definitely provides a nice balance at forward. As you said, 6'6" and still grabbing some great rebounds. So I will go with Keldon Johnson for sixth man of the year.
All right, my most improved player is Nickeil Alexander-Walker. This is another tight race, but I feel pretty convicted about this one, whereas I didn't feel super good about Keldon Johnson. I still have him winning. I feel the best about him compared to the other guys in the race, but Nickeil Alexander is not the favorite for this award, but I think he should be. He's averaging 21, 4, and 4, a steal, and he's shooting 39% from three this season. He's shooting 46% from three over his last 20 games, and he is really blossoming in a similar way to his cousin Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. He's really starting to fill out as a high volume scorer and shooter for the Hawks. He's not only thrived in the absence of Trae Young, but I think he's become a better player. Might be a hot take, but I honestly don't really think so. He's a great defender. He's a disruptive defender, eons above Trae, and I think he scores a lot more efficiently than Trae did. And I don't think he just caps out as a highly efficient role player. I think he could be an all-star next season and at least a core piece of a contending team moving forward. This is a really, really good basketball player. Like, this is no longer the role player we knew Nickeil Alexander-Walker as for a long time in the league. He is really starting to blossom into a big time player, and he's my most improved player.
So I'm going to go with Nickeil Alexander Walker as well.
Wow, okay.
I know we keep copying each other on everything, people.
I wasn't expecting that.
We did not compare notes, just saying. NAW averaging 20 plus points per game this season for the first time in his career, and the first time he's over 10 since 2022. Second leading scorer on the Hawks after Jalen Johnson. And he's just turned himself into a valuable starter on a potential playoff team. The Hawks right now are 2 games out of the play-in tournament. Not in the play-in tournament. They're currently the fifth seed, and they hopefully are going to try and hold on to that. So Nickeil Alexander-Walker is my most improved player. He's just really been a great asset for them ever since coming over from like Minnesota and Utah and being a cousin of Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. I think the Alexander family is going to be very happy with some of these award winners. So,
Yeah, might have
um,
two of them.
yeah, definitely. We'll see how this works out for that.
Alrighty, so to round out our award picks for this season, I'm going to take another underdog here. My coach of the year is Joe Mazzulla. I expected this undermanned Celtics team this year to be fighting tooth and nail for, I don't know, maybe an 8 seed, and they are handily the second seed in the East this year. The fact that they're so good after enduring so much roster turnover, probably the most out of any contending team coming into this season, and also missing their best player for like 80% of the season. That's insane to me, how good they were able to be this season. And again, with so much turnover and missing your best player, I mean, I attribute that to Joe Mazzulla. He establishes a culture and he lives it. I mean, you see it when he talks. I mean, he never phases in the way he approaches the game and approaches his life, honestly. Every answer you hear is consistent with how he wants his team to play. And, that's something I really respect and I think it really stands out. And again, when you have a team that has gone through so much changes personnel wise and that is enduring injuries, that kind of consistent, strong voice is so important for a team like that, a team going through issues like that. And it clearly proved to work again. the Celtics were, I think pretty clearly the second best team in the East this year. I think they're closer to the Pistons than they are to maybe the third best team, the New York Knicks or the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think they're right there with Detroit. So, I mean, honestly, I think they're arguably the best team in the East after going through everything they have this season. JB Bickerstaff is the favorite for this award, and I think that's fine, and he's totally deserving. The Pistons continue to make leap after leap without many additions to the roster. And I think that speaks very highly to Bickerstaff, but I just think that given all he had against him and all the Celtics had against them this season, Missoula has done the best job relative to their expectations. So, rounding up my award pool here, I'm giving Coach of the Year to Joe Missoula, and I'm excited to see if we finally disagree on one of these.
And you are correct.
We do?
There will be a disagreement.
Finally.
So
Jeez.
my coach of the year is Joe Mazzulla. No, I'm kidding. So I was going to originally say JB Bickerstaff with his work with the Pistons.
Whoa, not
No,
JB Bickerstaff either?
no. Hold on.
Okay,
I
okay.
was going to say JB Bickerstaff just because, the Pistons have just been dominant this year. They are the clear number one seed. Obviously, with Cade's collapsed lung, things have been a little dicey recently, trying to get him back as soon as possible. But it's like, they were good last year too. And it was kind of like a process. So I'm going to go with somebody who has really just turned a franchise around, and that is Charles Lee of the Charlotte Hornets.
Interesting. I love that. Love
So
that.
Charles Lee, ironically enough, was a Celtics assistant coach back when they won the title a few years ago. He has clearly dragged the Hornets from laughing stock to a true contender. The Hornets last year were 19 wins. 19. And this year they're over 500. I believe right now they're sitting at 43. So you're talking about an over 20 game differential in terms of wins. Con Knippel has been a true rookie of the year threat to Cooper Flag and is already a great 3-point shooter. You see it every other week. Oh, Con broke another record, Con this, Con that. And I think he's hit the most threes as a rookie. Beating out Steph Curry is always great. I mean, the volumes are bigger these days than when Steph was a rookie in 2009, but the Hornets have been on a different level. They are no longer the Hornets. You look at the schedule and say, free win to that's great. But the Hornets are just another great team. I don't think this year they're going to do too much. They might not even escape the play-in tournament next week. We don't know, obviously, until we get to that point. But it should be a great progression in the future to see what the Hornets can do. And maybe now that they've done something, maybe free agents will want to go to them. Maybe rookies and draft picks they'll be proud to be in Charlotte. They don't want to be like, oh my gosh, get me on the first flight out of Charlotte. No, they see it as a respectable sports city and a team now, obviously led by LaMelo Ball. So Charles Lee will be my coach of the year pick. He probably will not get it. I'd expect JB Bickerstaff to get it. I think Missoula is a good pick too to get it. You never know. Maybe even Mark Dagnall to the Thunder could get it just because they've been consistent. But gotta give some love to Charles Lee.
That's an awesome pick. I love that. He is, I mean, I think he's asserted himself as a, upper echelon coach in the league, and watching the Hornets really blossom this year after, they've had young talent for a while now, but I'm really seeing them come into their own, especially with the addition of Con Knuppel and the, record-breaking historic season he's having. Yeah, big shout out to Charles Lee, a Joe Mazzulla disciple. So we may have finally disagreed on an award, but we weren't really too far off when you think about it. They're they're probably similar coaches, just obviously different coaches, but for they're probably for two different coaches, they're probably as close as they get. So yeah, I'm excited to see we disagreed first of all, and I'm even more excited to hear that pick. That's a fascinating pick, and I really like that. So yeah, that about wraps up our awards for this NBA regular season. Not too much disagreement between me and Larry. We'll see how the real awards shake out, probably a bit differently than ours. I could see Con Knuppel winning the Rookie of the Year. I could see maybe Jalen Duren winning Most Improved. I think JB Bickerstaff will probably win Coach of the Year. We'll probably both be wrong there. So it'll be fun to see how this shakes out. But that wraps it up for our Dylan at Halftime 2026 NBA award picks. for our game of the week, we are going to the last day of the regular season for this one in a very highly anticipated rematch from their awesome duel just a couple of days ago. The San Antonio Spurs versus the Denver Nuggets, Victor Wembanyama versus Nikola Jokic. What an incredible game these two teams just had. Went to overtime. We saw Wemby block Jokic early in the game, and Jokic looked a bit stunned, but then in overtime, Jokic hits a picture perfect fadeaway right over the fingertips of Victor Wembanyama. Those fingertips were probably 12 feet in the air, and Jokic slotted the ball just above them, perfectly swished it. They pull off a 2-point win in overtime versus San Antonio. Wemby was pissed. Jokic was happy. It was just an awesome game. It was so fun to watch. It was so fun to see. Maybe two of the best centers of all time going at it here, and we're going to get another taste of it here on the last day of the regular season, Sunday, April 12th here. Hopefully, we're still in a position where these two teams are fighting for seeding, so we don't just see them rest their players because I would love to see these guys go at it full strength again, full effort, full intensity. The first matchup was so much fun. It was so competitive between those two. Seeing Wemby pissed after the game just really got me amped because he is just such a lovable player. Like he cares so much about winning basketball games, and not that that's rare anymore, but it's very much appreciated. You know, when you see that type of behavior from a player, when you see them really caring, and you know, Wemby is probably the player at the top of the league that exemplifies that the most. So it was really cool to see those two get real competitive with each other. But I'm gonna go with San Antonio in this game. You know, again, kind of speaking back to Wembanyama's competitiveness. Spurs might be the best team in the league in regards to who I want to come back after a bad L. You know, losing does not sit well with them. And you know, you could probably say that about any team at the top of the league, but you know, they really thrive off the energy Wembanyama plays with. You know, Wembanyama is obviously an incredible talent, but again, that care he has for the game and that disgust he has with losing, it rubs off on the entire team. They went 3-1 versus the Oklahoma City Thunder this year. Again, I like their odds in a big comeback game, maybe better than any team in the league. And they're spearheaded by maybe the most competitive guy in the NBA right now, Victor Wembanyama. So I'm gonna go with Wemby and the Spurs to get their get back here. I'm gonna go with the Spurs 128 to 120 and getting their revenge here in the final day of the regular season.
Yeah, definitely a great game to end the regular season in that prime time slot in preparation for the play-in tournament. And obviously, the playoffs start later next week. As Chris said, you know, the Nuggets just beat the Spurs at home in overtime last Saturday, 136-134. Definitely a high flyer. And this is a game of MVP candidates, obviously, being Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's to lose, but Jokic and Wemby always at the top of the MVP race. In that matchup last week, Nikola Jokic had 40 points, 8 rebounds, and 13 assists. Victor Wembanyama, 34 points, 18 boards, 7 assists, and 5 blocks, because of course he did, trying to just stuff the stat sheet any way possible. The Spurs right now, 59-19, second in the West. The Nuggets, as we said earlier, 50-28 and tied for third with the Lakers, and they're on an 8-game winning streak. And the way that it's going right now with the Spurs and the Nuggets, the NBA actually just released today, Monday, they released the postseason seeding possibilities. Now, what these are is basically the breakdown of all the possibilities where a team could fall in the playoff race. So, for example, the Detroit Pistons in the East locked up the number 1 seed, so they cannot fall below that. In the Western Conference, nobody has claimed the number 1 seed, but the only 2 teams that are able to, based off record, are the Thunder and the Spurs. So they released all the possibilities of where teams could fall in the 1 through 10 range. And the Spurs can either go 1 or 2. They cannot go below 2. They are still eligible to capture that number 1 seed, but the Thunder currently have the edge in the standings. They are 3 games ahead of the Spurs. The Nuggets can go anywhere from 3 to 5. So right now they are tied with the Lakers, and they are 1 game ahead of Houston for that number 5 seed. There's still plenty of room for them to kind of shake things up, and this one will definitely be coming down to the wire. You never know. This could be the difference between a home playoff game or being on the road for the Nuggets. And could be a favorable matchup to an unfavorable matchup or vice versa. A lot of possibilities there. So I'm going to go, of course, because Chris and I have agreed on everything today, but I will continue that trend. I'll go with the Spurs 123-120. I think it'll be a very contested battle like it was the other day and just a great matchup. And you never know, depending on how the playoffs shape up, this could honestly be a playoff matchup. You never know. Grab your popcorn. This should be a good one. Well, that's all the time we have for today. If you haven't already, make sure to follow the podcast accounts, Chris and me, on social media. The 3 podcast accounts on Instagram, TikTok, and X or Twitter are under @Diehlman@half. My personal X and Instagram are @Larry Diehlman. Chris's personal X and Instagram are @ChrisDippy. All 7 handles are in the description on Buzzsprout, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, although you can find Diehlman at Halftime on major podcasting platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube, the main podcast website is on Buzzsprout. The website URL is Diehlman@halftime.buzzsprout.com. Feel free to send a comment by using the Send Us a Text button located in each episode's bio. With the exception of Apple Podcasts, the text option is available on Buzzsprout and all of the major platforms. Your comment could end up in the fan mail section of the Buzzsprout website. And don't forget to spread the word about Diehlman at Halftime. Remember, we are 4 episodes away from episode number 100 of the podcast. Very exciting times coming up soon. And today's episode was the final episode of the regular season. So starting next week, it'll be all playoffs until the end of the season. Next week will be a special edition. Chris and I will unveil our entire playoff brackets, including the play-in tournament. So stay tuned for that. We can't wait to unveil them and see if you guys agree on our picks. See you next time, fellow Hoops fans.